Hey everybody, it's Zavzan here, and don't you love it when Blab throws you a curveball at the kickoff show, right? So I'm telling these two ladies they're getting tested today, and they get to experience my crisis management firsthand. And this is going to be an interesting show. I'm so honored to be here to help both these ladies produce their first show, and this All Things Family show is going to be an interesting show today. So people, be sure to tweet this out. We know we may not seem like we're on Blab, but we're actually in the room with you, but we're just patching it via Google Hangouts or YouTube Live because of the tech challenge that Blab is throwing us at this moment. So don't fear, I can handle this, and I can help these ladies handle this. All they have to do, I said to them, is just smile and keep on going, right? So I'm very honored to, to do this with them today, and I just want to say welcome to both Leonaura Rhodes and also Crystal Horton, because the stories I met Crystal on LinkedIn, and before I get them to introduce themselves, let's just say welcome, ladies, to your All Things Family show. Woo! Hello, hello.
Hello.
Are you excited?
Yeah. I am.
This is awesome, right? Your first kickoff show, and you got challenged already. How cool is that?
Yeah.
It can only get better from here, ladies.
Yeah.
Right? So, so here, I just wanted to say, Crystal, when I first met you on LinkedIn, I mean, would you have imagined us arriving here?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, our energy was good. We kicked off great, but I would have never imagined it.
Right? And the fact, guys, what you don't know, right? So Crystal, she's in Colorado, and I'm in Connecticut. And she introduces me to Leonora. She says, by the way, you got to meet my co-host. And I said, where is she at? She's in Connecticut. I'm like, where is she at? She's like 30, 40 minutes from me. And I'm like, 6 degrees of separation? No kidding. This is probably 3 degrees of separation, right, folks? But anyways, how did you both meet, Leonora?
Yeah, so Crystal and I were both on a coaching course with a great business coach called John Page Burton. And we were in his course, and there was a lot of kind of chatter going on, and then Crystal and I connected on Facebook, and we realized that we were both coaches for parents, and there was kind of an instant connection there, and we've been keeping in touch. I think we've known each other about 2 years, is that right?
Yeah, in about 2 years.
Do you imagine ever doing this with her?
No, not at all. It's great. I'm so glad Crystal asked. It was Crystal's idea, and I was so pleased that she asked. And I think between us, we've got some great ideas and kind of different perspectives and different accents as well.
Yes, yes, right? All that sexy accent. We love sexy accent, and I'll just have to keep up with that, right? So, let me just quickly ask you both ladies. I mean, how did you two meet? Who wants to start off first? Because I would love to hear the story. Crystal, you want to go first?
Well, sure. I mean, we participated in John Page Burton's Power Focus 90 group. He encouraged us to have workout partners and to meet other members of the group that were participating. So that's sort of how Leonora and I started talking, and then it led into Facebook chat. And of course on Facebook you can share your personal things along with your business things. So we got to know each other on both the business and personal side. It's been great. I mean, I admire Leonora, and brainstorming with her has been a lot of fun. It's been great. Yeah.
Awesome. Arriving here today at your first show, it's almost like giving birth to a child, isn't it?
Yes, without the pain.
Yes, without the pain, right? Everything's just going to be better from here. But, ladies, I just basically am very, very proud that you both have decided to do this because, Crystal, you hear me say this a lot, you know, live videos is the way to go, especially when you're building a community, you're trying to share your message, your content, and it really, really helps to accelerate relationships, and that's what I love about live videos because you can be in London, you can be in Australia, you can be in Denmark, Copenhagen, and Netherlands. You can really meet all these cool people, and you can do them all in your PJs if you so wish. And I used to joke about it. I say, you don't really have to brush your teeth. People won't complain, but you can still be present for the other person. So we're going to talk about this, family life balance today, and I know you gals are going to rock it. And I'm just going to be behind the scenes and, manage this crisis that we have, this little crisis that we have, nothing that I think I can handle. So I just want to make sure that I say welcome to your show, and I'm so honored that I'm, a part of your journey, and thank you for helping me help you produce this show. And I'm gonna let you both kick off, and I'm just gonna go off camera a little bit. And who wants to go first?
Leonora?
She goes, Leonora.
Yeah, so it's quite funny that we're having a crisis on this show because family life is really about lurching from one crisis to another and trying to figure out, what's the best way to cope with it, and sometimes doing a great job and sometimes doing a not so great job, and that's the reality of life and family life and business life, is that it's always throwing us challenges, and I really think what defines us as people is how we cope with those challenges when they come along. And when I was thinking about the kind of question of family balance, I was thinking, I think nobody ever wakes up in the morning and says, wow, I feel that my life is really balanced today. It's more of a journey towards trying to get closer to that, because life's really unpredictable, and especially family life.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I can see at times, when I give balance a definition and we don't reach that goal or that definition of it, it throws everything else off and creates grumpy, and it's like I'm climbing up a hill trying my best to get back to that definition of things, to where sometimes I could lose myself. But the more I studied, the more I did self-care, the more I was able to realize that balance is adapting. It's growing, it's creating, it's evolving each day into something different. It's not the same thing, which is something that I had tricked myself into thinking. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I've had people, clients say to me, is it ever possible to achieve balance? And of course, it depends on how you define it. For some people, feeling balanced is that everything's in control, their house is tidy, their kids are fed, and they can go to bed in the evening feeling that they've done a fairly good job. But for other people, it's just kind of feeling that, they had some control in their day, and, it changes all the time. It's really evolving, and I think it's really important with regard to that to be really kind to yourself and kind of playful with it, and kind of, not be rigid about your definition of it, because the more rigid you are, the harder it is to achieve whatever it is you're after, whether it's, balance or happiness. Yeah, the more inflexible you are, the harder it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I do struggle a little with control, the word control.
Sure.
I am a mother of 3, and I have one little angel in heaven, who would be our oldest son. Mm-hmm. So from that, I allowed my fears to take over, which fueled my control that damaged my balance. Does that make sense? Yeah. So really, the day that I have to be really aware, and I really have to care for myself as well, and be present in the moment, because if not, I allow those controlling issues to arise and feed my fears. and then my balance disappears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crystal, I wonder if our audience would like to know a little bit more about your story. Are you willing to share?
Sure. I am, where do I start? Okay, I am the mother of four. My oldest son would be 11. He died due to lung and kidney failure. My oldest daughter is 9, and my youngest daughter is going to be 8 this Sunday. She's been counting down the days since January and has been celebrating her birthday since April 1st.
Oh, cool.
And my youngest son is 6. So that's kind of me. I began writing a book that will be published at the end of this month, Stretch Marks, and it's Mother's Journey to Awareness, which describes some of the struggles of control that I talked about with losing a son. And I'm a life coach that specializes in the family dynamics, the family side of things. And I would describe myself as fun, quirky, and a little on the informative side. Yes, how about you, Leonora? Please share your story with us.
So I kind of began my adult life as a doctor, which is kind of probably one of the most stressful careers you can go into, and it was, my 20s were really stressful. And it was funny, I was out at a concert last night, and I was telling the friends that we were with, I didn't have much fun in my 20s at all. It was just all hard work. And then my first son came along, and things seemed to be going great. And then he got very sick and nearly died of chickenpox. And I planned to go back to work as a doctor. And then my second son came along, and he was even sicker than the first, and was resuscitated lots of times. And I couldn't even leave him with my husband because he was so sick. So, like you say, that kind of feeling of being kind of out of control and trying to find control wherever you could grasp it really became a way of life for me. And it was accompanied by a really very serious self-neglect that kind of crept in over time. And it started for very good reason, because as any parents who are watching today know, when your child is sick, nothing else matters. That's kind of your main focus. And but I let this carry on for 3 or 4 years, and the end result was that I was stressed all the time. I had really bad depression, anxiety, that kind of feeling of everything was out of control all the time.
Me too. Yes.
It's a horrible, horrible feeling. And then I had kind of one of those awakening moments where I realized that it was really harmful the way I was allowing my life to run, and that I needed to take some control back, and that I needed to focus on healing myself and then helping other people find the tools to heal themselves too. Because our story, Crystal, and everybody listening, they are unique to us, but it's pretty common for people to feel that way when they're a parent, to feel that kind of out of control. And so, I then started working with parents to help them try to find tools to make their life better and to start to rebuild their identity. And so I also wrote a book a couple of years ago called Beyond Soccer Mom, which is it's a very kind of strategic coaching book on how to get your life back on track. And so that's my story, from kind of physician to parent to coach, and I love what I do now. Coaching and speaking are two of my favorite things. I just love it, and it's so lovely to be hosting this show with such a lovely coach and mother as Crystal.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I do. Going back to your story of kind of losing yourself and forgetting to care for yourself, I can completely relate to that, because I went through that stage as well, and I thought that I was the only one having this nervous breakdown sort of thing, and all of the parents around me had it together. But the more I shared and the more I talked about what was going on in my life, the more I realized that I wasn't the only person, which was sort of healing to me. I didn't feel alone, and that kind of brought balance in itself, not only to myself but also to my family, because, you know, the moms kind of set the mood sometimes in the house.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's funny because I think when I wrote my book, I got some advice from a male coach who was originally from Mexico, and he'd done really well with his book. And I was telling him about my book, and he said to me, your book should do really well because women are really selfish these days. And it was one of those moments where you wish you had a really good answer, but I didn't. I kind of just let the moment go. And it really bugged me. And afterwards, I was kind of processing this, and I was like, I just wanted to say to him that, you know, looking after yourself is not a luxury. It's not something that you can kind of choose to do or not to do. It's really, really essential because we only have one life, and our kids and, you know, our partner, if we have one, and our friends and our loved ones need us to be healthy, and they need us to be strong, and they need us to be present. And if we neglect ourselves, we can't do any of that. And people, you know, I used to be a developmental pediatrician, so I've worked with hundreds of families with special needs kids, and people often think that special needs kids, particularly autistic kids, can't pick up on the mother being stressed. They really can. These kids, you know, they can sense an energy, even if it's not spoken in words. And so it's, you know, it's so essential that parents, both mothers and fathers, because dads do it just as much as mothers do, this kind of self-neglect thing. And it's just so essential. It's not a luxury, it's an absolute must. And I think we really need to change the way people think about that. And it's a bit of a cultural shift, really, because it's not okay the way things are going at the minute, in my opinion.
Through my personal development journey, I read a story which reminds me of what you're talking about how when you're in an airplane and the attendant tells you to put your oxygen mask first, then take care of everyone else. It kind of relates to that, to what you're saying, because the more, you know, you have to be able to breathe first in order to help your child breathe, or in order to guide someone to do something else, you have to make sure you're together first.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. I'm going to chime in real quick. For some of you who are just joining us or watching the replay, welcome to our All Things Family Show Kickoff. Yay! Today we're discussing family life balance. So please tweet it out, share it with your Facebook buddies, and join in on our discussion if you can. If there's no crazy things happening on Blab now, join in on the discussion on the text side. So balance. It is a very tricky word, I think.
It is.
Because yes, the dictionary has its definition to sort of guide us to understand what it is, but really we develop it differently each day. For example, yesterday we all woke up happy, we did our routine in the morning, we had 40 minutes to go, we jumped on the trampoline, we danced, and this morning it was complete opposite. The kids didn't want to go to school, they wanted to stay and play, and it was like the balance shifted. But if I were to have my definition, I would have been furious and in control mode of trying to change things today to go back to yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that piece about kind of being kind to yourself and flexible with it.
Yeah.
And who knows why the energy was different for your family today, and it's kind of not worth thinking about. But I think as a parent, it's really important to learn to go with the flow. And I'm sure you've coached people like this as well, Krista. I've coached some parents who have a real strong desire to control everything and for things to be a certain way. And it's kind of setting yourself up for failure to do that, really, because it's just, each of us in the family have different needs. We have different things that make us happy, different things that make us feel like we're thriving. And, we just need to be kind and flexible, and to kind of keep an eye on what's going on around us, and to be aware that other people have different needs from us. Really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote a blog article about the differences between being a helicopter parent versus an engaged parent.
Yeah.
And it's really taking on the role as a guide or as a coach to your children, as opposed to controlling every movement or every moment in fear of them having to face something uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And allowing them. Yeah.
And it's interesting, as your kids get older, when they become teenagers and adulthood is looming, and you kind of have this sense that you need to allow them independence more and more. Yeah. But it's kind of scary, because we all know that how things can go wrong, and so, as your kids get older, that becomes even more of a challenge of not over parenting, not trying to make their decisions for them. And I remember having this kind of realization. It may sound odd to everybody, maybe everybody else knew this from the get-go, but I had this realization one day that my kids weren't me, and that what they wanted out of life was not what I wanted out of life at all. And there's some interesting conversations that come up around that. And managing expectations is really important in that situation, because often your kids want totally different things from life than what you wanted when you were their age, and also what you as a parent want from them. And they've got to be comfortable with who they are. So it's a very difficult balance to get right.
Yes, I agree. I did have one of those moments. My daughter was arguing about something, and I had remembered, you may look like me, but we have different opinions, and that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. And it's also very normal. I was speaking on the train last night. I was speaking to a couple of my husband's colleagues. We were all traveling into New York together, and they were telling me what they were like as teenagers. And one of the guys was saying he was very compliant. He did as his parents told him, and he was kind of a good kid. And he said, and my brother was the opposite. And he said, it's funny, my parents must have been so worried at times, but we both ended up being okay at the end of the day. We're just very different people, and we both hit problems in our journey, and we learned to deal with them, sometimes well and sometimes not so well. But at the end of the day, it's been okay, and we've ended up being very different people, but it's worked out. And I think that's something that parents need to keep in mind as well, that, the likelihood is that everything will be okay.
So it's almost as if, kind of like when you're goal planning for your business, keeping the end in mind and working backwards. But it's also, as a parent, keeping the end in mind, but knowing that there are going to be many different turns. And it may not get to where your end is, but it'll be close. Does that make sense?
And it may be totally different.
Yeah, it may be completely different, but you've got to be okay with it.
Absolutely. It really is parenting really is a journey of learning to kind of let go a little bit and kind of trust. The universe will lead your family in the right direction at the end of the day. So.
learning to love, to honor, and also to respect what you can't control.
Absolutely. And I think it's hard. I do think it's harder today in this kind of very digital age where you know, we and our children are bombarded with information almost 24/7. I mean, you know, it's funny. I texted somebody something a couple of days ago, and she was on vacation. I'd forgotten she was on vacation, and she answered my text at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, "Why is your phone on at 3 o'clock in the morning?" Because mine's not.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just like this information's coming in all the time, and it's also some of the information's really good, and some of it's terrible, and a lot of it's conflicting.
Yeah.
And I think it leads to parents and children comparing themselves a lot to these standards that we see and constantly judging ourselves and other people in a way that's really not very healthy, because you know, there is no one answer. There's no one way to bring up children. There's no one way to be a kid in school.
Yes,
It's all so different, and I think it's a big problem that I see when I coach parents, that you know, this kind of constant worry: am I doing a good enough job? In the past, you didn't have many people to compare yourself to, but now you've got the world. You've got the world to compare yourself to, and that's, you know, that's really not healthy. You have to keep an eye on that and make sure it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, I agree, which I also think is a lot of the reason why parents yearn for balance, because now it's having to create that discipline to shut it off and really listen to your inner self and your inner guide and that intuition, because there's so much out there that can easily get mixed up and misunderstood. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned intuition. I think when you're stressed, or when you have depression, or even if you're physically unwell, I think it's quite hard to listen to that intuition. There's so many mixed messages when you're in that state, and it's kind of another reason why it's so important to, you know, particularly manage stress, and to make sure that you're looking after yourself, so that intuition, you can trust it more than you can if, you know. And Crystal knows I'm a neuroscience geek, so I usually get the brain into a conversation at some stage. But, you know, from a brain point of view, when you're in this stress state, or when you're physically sick, your brain isn't working the way it's meant to. It's like a computer that's malfunctioning. So it's, you know, it's really, it's just another reason to, you know, for this whole self-care thing to be important.
Yeah, I agree. I always question the brain too. So I'm very glad to know you. Asking the questions.
I drive my family crazy. They're like, "Oh my God, she's talking about the brain again."
That's great. I'm more of the feelings person in the house.
Yeah.
Emotions. Well, I'm sometimes I'm afraid to say this because then it might do this, and so I always question those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's hard for me sometimes with, you know, with the neuroscience knowledge, to kind of keep an eye on both, you know, the emotional side and the more kind of touchy-feely side, and the kind of concrete science side that's telling me something slightly different. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, we discussed a few of the things today, which parents yearn for balance. Now, what's some great tips that you can provide?
I think it's useful, if you don't have a clear definition of what balance is to have a definition of what balance isn't. Like, what's the opposite?
Oh, yeah.
What's the total opposite of balance? And it's really interesting. Before I wrote my book, I did a survey asking parents what they wanted more of and less of in their life, and it was stress that came up the most. That was kind of the top thing that came up: stress and overwhelm, sadness, depression, anxiety, all of those things. And I think kind of when you have an idea of what the opposite is, then you can work on preventing that. And what happens naturally is that then you move towards balance. Because, as we said, balance is so hard to define. Yeah. And it's a very personal thing to define. So, you know, to flip it on its head and kind of say, so what am I moving away from?
Yeah.
And that can really help people get some clarity.
Yes, those are excellent tips. That's a great way of to put it. I'm really excited. I think I'm going to write something when we finish here. I'm just excited about that. But my tips would be to live an inspired life. Yes, to be balanced, but don't make it all work. Take the time to play, and you know, most importantly, be you and indulge in you and enjoy all those things that are around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And enjoying yourself and having fun. I had this horrible realization when my kids were sick, and it was kind of after we'd come out of the acute phase of them being sick. It was kind of, you know, maybe a couple of years later. We went to a kids' party, and they had a bouncy castle. And before the kids went on, myself and two other mothers went on the bouncy castle, and it was so much fun. I have this great photograph of us all laughing and, you know, really kind of being kids again. And when I came off, I started crying. My husband was like, "What's wrong? You know, you were just having fun." And I said, "I don't remember the last time I had fun." And I hear that time and time again. And life's too short not to be having fun, and it's too short not to be following your dreams, and to be having some adventures, and to be making mistakes. You know, making mistakes is a big part of our journey. You know, do things that you don't know if they'll work out, just for the hell of it, just to try it. You know, and
embrace the mistakes and indulge in the failure.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's another thing that's a problem with today. I think, you know, schools, it's all about praise and, you know, kind of patting kids on the back and giving them certificates when they graduate from kindergarten when they're like 4 years old, and for doing nothing. You know, we also need to notice when things don't go so well, and kind of say, so what happened there? And what can we learn from it? And that's where we learn most, actually. You know, it's not from when things work out well. It's from, like this morning, when we have technical hitches.
Yes, we learn from that. Yes, at school, my daughter's teacher had passed out this very serious test, and then she had apologized and realized that she had given out the wrong test, and she was really worried and nervous about it, and my daughter stood up and said, "Hey, it's okay, everybody makes mistakes." So it kind of reset the mood in the class, and it was just, it was wonderful, and just like you say, embrace the mistakes. It's good. It's a good thing.
And like you said about kind of living an inspired life, I think it's really important for our children to see us as parents having a life outside of them. Because especially as they get older and, you know, they're teenagers and they're about to fly the nest, they need to know that you're going to be okay without them as well. You know, that you're not going to fall apart, that you're not going to be, you know, sitting at home, biting your nails, worrying about when the next text message is going to come through, you know. That you have things that, you know, that make you an interesting person, and that things that you can talk about. I remember one of the worst experiences for me, I went to a wedding, and it was after my kids had been sick, and this guy came up to me and said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom." And he literally turned his back on me and walked away. And I felt like I had been kicked in the stomach. It was just the most awful feeling. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't have much else to talk about because that was what was, obsessing me at the time. And it made me realize that wasn't very healthy, and that I needed to talk about some other stuff.
Oh yeah. My realization was when I was losing friends, and we were standing around, they were talking about life and some of the adventures that they had gone on, and all I could think about was, well, yesterday I did laundry. It was just that shock that everybody's moving forward and I somehow went backwards. We lose that shift, but sometimes I do think that we as parents need that realization in order to write down where we want to go and what we want to do and build that that goal, that dream.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we're nearly out of time, Krista. I can't believe it's gone so fast.
This has been great.
And I think we kind of wanted to end the show today by saying we are so excited to be doing this show, Crystal and I together. I think it's going to be a great show. We have so much to share with everybody about how to look after yourself and this whole kind of concept of family dynamics. And we're both buzzing with ideas. And I hope it comes across that we love doing what we're doing. And we can't wait to share some more of our ideas and hear some questions from the community as well. We'd love you to send us questions because, this isn't about Crystal and I. This is about you guys. And we have a website for the show, which is allthingsfamilyshow.com. And if you head on over there, Crystal's developed this amazing free planner. It has like a weekly plan and then daily plans that you can print off and use over and over again to help you get some balance in your life and get that dynamic of going in the right direction. And there's a free ebook that I wrote on time management, and it's a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek, and it's just some ideas to get you started. And so this has been a great start. And Crystal, did you just want to mention Zeph and her team at the end?
Yes. I definitely want to say thank you to entrepreneurs at SOAR and their team for producing this show. It's been phenomenal working with them. Also, please join us every Fridays at the same time on Blab.im. Next Friday, we are going to discuss self-care. So we hope you can join us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.